Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Lockdown Talks Extended Podcast, episode 5. I'm here with my bro, Tyrone. He's my business partner in No 6. And before we start, I'd just like to say thanks to Teoro for the space that we're in. Shout out to Maungakiekie local board. Thanks, guys. Oh, and also the Heart Movement. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to continue on with this podcast. All right, let's get into it. Sup, G? How's it going?
Me? How's that?
So, what I wanted to do, the reason why I wanted to bring Tyrone into this podcast is Tyrone is known as the money man in our company. But you know, it's tongue in cheek, but like real talk, he knows way more about money than we do. I mean, yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit? Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, so my name's Tyrone Tangata Makiri, Māori and Cook, born and bred out in East Auckland. And yeah, like Benji said, we're business partners at No 6. And yeah, keen to kind of get into this. And I guess my whole journey before No 6 and within No 6 has made me go on a journey around understanding money and my relationship with it. So yeah, keen to kick it off.
Yo, solid, G. So the first thing I want to talk about is, I guess, our perception of money, like between us two. And I'll go first of like what I think about money and all that stuff, and then you can sort of just follow on or just respond. So in terms of money, man, most of my life I've always seen money as like the way to get out. And growing up in a relatively lower socioeconomic family, we were always encouraged to get a good job. That was the main thing. It was never about, part of it was also like, what are you good at? What are your passions? You're good at maths, you're good at art, so let's do architecture, which is actually a reason why I wanted to get into architecture. But also, we all knew that architecture has like really, really good money, And so for me, subconsciously, is always about like, all right, let's try and crack it.
Yep. But
then, when you grow up a little bit, and you start getting a little bit more mature, you understand how the world works, that subconscious thought about what money can do for you sort of shapes the way that you navigate as well. And we can talk about like how in high school, it was always about like how much money you had, and then like the clothes that you also wore was kind of like a symbol of how much money you had as a family. And it was always a shame to talk about how much money you didn't have. And, like even now as adults, it's still a shame to talk about how much money you don't have. But, for us, I feel like we've elevated into another thought process of like, this is an issue about not only how we feel, but there is a kind of inequity at play here, because we understand, the flow of money, and this is just through learning through you, right? And so, yeah, I mean, in conclusion to all those things that I've said and all my thought processes, I came down to the, conclusion that it wasn't the money that was bad. It was actually the way that we perceived it.
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, what would you say on sort of that?
100%, bro. I relate to your journey so much. Obviously, we've been brought up in the same community. Obviously, we have our ancestry or heritage is obviously through the Pacific and whatnot. And yeah, very much. I think that whole thing, that was why I kind of went into my journey of understanding money, because I was like, bro, we have nothing. That was my perception at the time. We have nothing. I can't do things that I want to do. I can't get girls that I want to get because I don't have all these things, these materialistic things. And to get those materialistic things was like, how can we get that money? So I very much went on the journey. And I guess, what is it? I want to say it like, went on a journey with my own family. To kind of progress on how I can get money. And to be honest, I had so many arguments growing up around, man, we're from the hood. I don't want to be from the hood. Yeah. We have nothing. Yeah. And then, like you said, grew up and understood the system and understood things that were at play. And really, a lot of it that I found was there was some unpacking I needed to do.
Yeah. Hard out. And so, like, because I mean, like, because I know you, right? And like, you know, other people don't really know you, and so for me, I would definitely see you as a sort of like an inspiration for like myself to get into a position of like understanding money, and being in the, you know, like, for real talk, man. Like, you got your own house, like that's solid as. You bought it what, 24 or 25?
Yeah, around 25.
Yeah, and like that to me is just bizarre, because like for me personally, I'm in a space where I'm like, bro, I'm probably gonna rent my whole life. You know what I mean? It's just like I've already accepted it. But then just seeing you as a close friend, but also as a business partner, it's like, oh fuck, it can actually happen if we understand it a lot more.
Totally.
And so that's why I'm a lot more open into like hearing your thoughts around like how money flows, how you use money and stuff, and like, just for other people that don't know Ty, I wouldn't say he's like reckless with money, but he doesn't think like myself personally, and like with other people, right? And so like that's why I was really interested. Like, fuck, you got a house, and now you also got a 1-year-old baby, pretty much, and it's like, and we basically do the same thing, you know, we're business partners, but even me, I'm like still struggling to like pay rent and all these different bills, and I don't even have my own house. So it's definitely like good insight for me personally, but also, like, you know, I like to go into the conversation of like, you know, value, right? And Nika and I actually had a talk about it before we jumped in, and yeah, it only dawned on me when we started talking about like stuff to do with value, because it's so subjective, right? Especially on a global level.
Yeah.
Value isn't about, you know, it's not even like, how do I say it? Like, for example, you know, how much does it cost to make the headphones that you got on your head?
Yeah, exactly.
And then how much do you sell it for?
And I guess we know that the differentiating denominator is the brand. You know, what the brand wants to put out there. These, not to say that these are quality, they're the same, but that brand and that perception allows for some to maybe sell it at a higher point. And a reason why I wanted to jump in here is because like I was like, man, I'm coming onto this. I want to know a little bit more about I guess the technical stuff around value. And when it comes to kind of exchanging stuff, there's kind of the exchange value, and then there's the use value. So one of the metaphors that I kind of like talking about is that, imagine you're in a game show and you had the choice of being given either a water bottle or a diamond. Which one would you choose? The diamond, right? Like, it makes total sense that you'll choose the diamond. But imagine if you're in the desert and there was a long desert, you couldn't see for ages, you know, what was going to happen, and you're at the point, and you're asking, you're tired, would you rather pick the water bottle or would you rather pick the diamond? Obviously you're going to pick the water. So for me, it's like actually realizing that, like you said, everything is subjective, which then plays on, for some people want something urgently or something now, so that's why they'll pay a higher dollar to make that happen. So that's the reason why a lot of these things are very confusing. I and for me too, I'm still trying to get grips with a lot of things of how they sell. But there's that use value and exchange value that doesn't get, I guess, talked often. And I think, we're keen to dive into that a bit more about what that means.
Because a lot of it's to do with like, it's that supply and demand as well. You know, like what is the thing that is selling? Because I don't know, like, for example, you know, we can look at another question I like to throw out there is, when does it become morally right? You know, and this is one of many criticisms of capitalism, which is using these demands that are happening as a way to create money. Because, like, let's be honest, you know, capitalism was all about how much wealth you can attain, but that's just one part of it. And so if we use an extreme example, which is the face masks, right? Even today, I went into the supermarket. Last week. Face mask, 50 face masks for like $55. And it's like, shit. Like, really?
Totally.
And so, like, now this starts to bleed into the inequities of, like, you know, I mean, like, if you think about it, it's like everyone in New Zealand kind of gets like $50, you know, somehow. And so it's like, okay, that's cool, but the matter of the fact is that people only get like $100.
The pricing out of, you know, a certain top thing, like getting priced out of something that some people would love the access to for health reasons potentially.
Yeah, I mean,
and maybe why I want to speak into that, because sorry to jump in there, is that I think one of the things that I guess I understand, and this is my perception, and this is stuff that I kind of look at, and I'm not going to say that I'm a very expert when it comes to kind of capitalist structures and free markets necessarily, but within free markets, the market decides. So I know that's easy to say, more than it's easy to choose, but if there are things like those that are obviously priced at a thing that is not necessarily something that everyone can buy, if people don't buy it,
true.
Then they have to change their pricing, they have to change the way they go about it. And that's easy to say. It's not every case is a bit different, but the market decides. So I feel like having conversations that it's a two-way thing, so people can obviously produce products and produce services, but if that product or service ain't being bought, that's where we're deciding that, hey, that's not applicable for us. Change your ways to make sure that we can get access or we can get things working for us.
And that kind of reminds me of the saying that you always say, which is that energy don't lie, right? And if it's something that people subscribe to, or if they don't subscribe to, then that energy would be deployed relative to what people are feeling. But, you know, it also comes down to, you know, basic necessities, and if we go back to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I think, well, I personally think it's a that everybody should be given the basic needs, which is, you know, security, health as well, and however people, you know, navigate in their life, that's all on you. But in order to be, you know, a basic human, those are the things that we sort of need. But coming back to the like value is such a big term. We can go into like different avenues.
And I think too, because there is a very, very much a paradox to it. And I feel like we all come into it at different entry points and with different education on how to do it. Now, I say that because even I am still trying to grapple with, you know, what is valuable and what is not. I think where I've come to an understanding, and you talked about, you know, I guess for me, the way that I spend money in comparison to, you know, our team is that I'm a bit more like forward with it.
You're way more free flowing.
I think it's got a lot to do with this idea of the values that I hold. So the values that I hold is that I have spoken to myself, I guess, and have these set of values and these set of things that I buy to. So just to kind of open up why we talk about reckless, we gamble hard as a team. And I'm very much, if you ever know me, like I'll banter until your ears fall off, but also like keen to always push it. But it's because for me, one of my values is actually having the freedom to do leisure. Like that's kind of one of my things that I do. I've actually created a system where I put money aside to be able to do it. So as much as I'm playing banter and all that, I've actually consciously created an opportunity for me to do that. So it's not come out of like Tyrone speaking out of like nowhere, like, oh, he's just putting heaps of money. It's like, actually, Tyrone made a bank account. So if you guys knew my bank account and pushed over, I'll probably be like, I'm all good. I won't beat you guys. So I feel like there's all that kind of stuff that, you know, I'm hoping to be a part of, and why we're doing this conversation to talk more on that. Like there's ways that we can unpack our relationship, but also create systems to allow us to act in a way that fulfills us. And
I think, I think that was a really important part to bring up, which is that the pre-planning of this reckless behavior too is actually creating that wriggle space for you to be able to, you know, spend that leisure and not at an impulsive feeling, right?
Yep.
And so, like, I guess part of that is me projecting myself onto your spending too. You know, like the way that you spend, I'm like, if I was to make that decision right on the spot, like you just did right now, from my financial position, I would see that as reckless. But yeah, I think that's a really good point to bring up when it comes to being conscious of where every single cent of your money goes to. Because, like, if I was to be honest, people aren't really that. Well, just from my personal experience, I don't feel like people are that. What's the word? You know what I mean, eh? Just really careful with their money.
Yeah, totally.
It's just like money comes in, okay, let's just pay this, and that, whatever. But not so much in the fact of like, okay, say for example, $50 a month is going to be allocated to gambling or whatever. Because gambling is like your leisure, right? I could say $50 for me would be like new running equipment or something. And so I think that, do you think that kind of bleeds into this? So I want to move into the sort of scarcity mindset versus the abundant mindset. Do you think there's a crossover between those two?
Definitely, and I feel maybe even more I guess and like context to all of it. I want to say this, but also I don't want it to be like like if people hear this, they're like, see, that's why.
Yeah, 100%. People will say that.
One of the things for me with money, like if I go all the way back to when I was young, I love maths. True. For me, when I just look at money, I just see numbers, I see maths, so I like plus, minus, dividing, all of that jazz. So for me, I've got a good story when it comes to maths, and kind of worked on it, and I guess built a narrative and did stuff where I'm good at maths, so I should be good at money. So there's the narrative. Now, why I say that is because people might hear that and go, that's the reason why I hate maths, that's why I don't want to do it. I'm like, but it's a story. It's probably something in your life that's happened. Someone's probably said, maybe you should do maths, or I got a B or C minus, or you're not good at maths. I think that story's helped me. And I feel why I'm saying this is that a lot of why people potentially ain't conscious, this ain't the only reason, is because there's stories. There are stories that have kind of connected together, and then obviously have given people a mindset that, I don't want to look at my money. And then all the other interconnected stuff that is going on, work and all that kind of plays a part in that too. So for me, I got a good story with money because of the maths stuff that I kind of grew up with. You know, and to kind of keep it real and for people to kind of be honest with it, back in primary, we used to have this maths test. I don't know if you guys did it too, where it's like 100 questions. And then you had to do it as fast as you can, like plus, minus, and all that. So like, I was one of the very fortunate ones where I used to be able to do it fast enough and get 100 right. If you ever did it the fastest and got it all right, we got shouted McDonald's. So for me, it was just this perpetuating positive feedback loop for me and my story around maths. So then it kind of bled on to like, okay, money is maths. So a good story started. So that's for me created this momentum. But see, for me, what I'm trying to say to family and friends is that there's a story somewhere, you know, and it might not be one, it might be a couple of stories. The reason why you don't want to look at your money is because it brings up stress, brings up worry,
trauma,
all
as
that
well.
stuff. Yeah, bro, trauma.
Yeah, man. Because fuck, definitely the trauma stuff. Hey, it's like, oh man, like, you know, when people think about money and wealth, and you know what comes with that conversation is debt, and you know, man. Whenever I have conversations with you around debt, you're always just so free-flowing as well. And I'm like, fuck, you got way more debt than me. But I feel like I'm way more mentally stressed. It's way more stressful for me. And I just know that, like, you know, historically, I've always been saying, like, oh, man, when I win the money, I'm going to pay this, and that off. But, you know, slowly over time, I've actually changed my own personal... what do you call it? My own personal
mindset or beliefs.
Yeah, mindset of money, of saying not that, is to actually, you know, fix it at a micro level, and then hopefully, like, you know what you said, that'll perpetuate this positive feedback loop. Yeah, 100%.
Hi, bro, and I think, like, to kind of go back to your conversation around scarcity and abundance, I think, you know, having come from, you know, some of the backgrounds, low socioeconomic communities, family not really having enough, and like for me, I lived in state housing. I come from a generation of people on benefits, so it kind of felt like the trajectory. I knew where I was going if I could continue there, but I was looking around and saying like, not that I don't want this, because I feel like very much I know I've got loving family and friends around me, but I felt, man, this is life. Like, I'm sure we can do other things, and I've always had aspirations to travel to America when I was a kid. I saw these things on the TV, I want to be able to do that. My family has never been there, so I'm going to have to think about this a bit differently. So I think the start of my journey of learning actually, like, how can I, I guess, learn a bit more around how I can get there. So kind of perpetuate into that. So there was very much, and I'm not going to say like a day or week or month journey. It was like it's been a real lifelong journey of actually unpacking some of the stories and some of the conditions that I was in to even be in this place. And why I talk about this to then go into scarcity and abundance is that, like you said, I think for my parents and their generations, obviously, I love, man, what my parents did for me though, like straight up, they provided me such a good base to kind of see the world and look at it differently. They very much came from backgrounds that weren't as supportive for them, so they kind of said, they took the baton and said, hey, we'll give you a better life than we had. And then I felt I had to figure out a little bit more for the lifestyle that I wanted to create. But quite often the conditions that was kind of prescribed to me is that you got to get a good job. Good job will get you the good money. Good money will get you the good house.
Exactly
blah,
what
blah,
we're
blah,
talking
blah.
about.
So for that scarcity and abundance, is like you learn, the learning that I was learning is how to go from being poor and scarce to learning that being middle class with all these things is the abundance. So that was kind of my thing of like, oh yeah, I did that that was kind of my first 26 years of my life. Like transitioning to that kind of period. In the last 3 years though, it's been what is it? Not de-learning, what's the right word here? Like unlearning. A lot of unlearning that practice and shifting into another space, which is realizing and coming back to that debt conversation. Is that debt is not a bad thing. There's good debt and there's bad debt. And it's about how do you actually acquire good debt to then be able to do stuff in life that you want to do. Whether that's by not a house. House is actually a liability. I'll unpack that later. But what I've come to learn is that for people that want to go into, I guess, poor into middle class, the whole idea of budgeting, saving will get you there. So that's what I kind of learned, how to budget, how to save, how to get my money all sorted. And I felt, I can just continue this practice and I'll get to where I want to go. But what I kind of learned is that actually savers are scarcity thinkers.
Ooh, savers are scarcity thinkers.
And I put that on record, like not in a bad way, but it's legit because there are so many people that I know, and there's so many people that I look to that have shown that when you get into a rhythm of saving, you keep saving. There are people that have been saving their whole life and that are at 50, 60 and don't spend the money. True. So you create the scarcity mindset that if I put this money somewhere, I'm going to lose it and have to figure out how I'm going to get it back. So the idea of continuously saving and not investing it or not putting it into other stuff that can get you more resources creates another scarcity mindset. And that's kind of where, I don't know, I'm not going to call anyone middle class, but people that sit in that realm, that's where they get stuck into a space of like, oh man, I don't want to, I've saved all this money, but now I can't even spend it. So my question is, why build all that money and then not even spend it? So I've had to do a lot of unlearning and actually learning, how do we be wealthy and how do we create, genuine wealth, which is actually not saving. It's about how do we build pockets like I've done with gambling. So that can be leisurable, but I've actually got an account with my family and my partner that we actually have it for investments. So we look at how do we use our money to buy courses, education, get us upskilled. But now that we're in a position with the banks, we can now go borrow from the bank. So you don't necessarily need money to do that. You learn that you can get good debt to then get money to then do other stuff as well. So it's a whole unlearning that I've had to do in the last couple of years,
But I mean, just I definitely, that, like everything that you said definitely makes sense. And just to bring clarity for everyone else around the whole idea, when you said, saving is a scarcity thing, and this is implying that it's not just about like just spending recklessly. That's not what we're saying.
No.
It's about spending so you make more, right? So it's like reinvesting. And that's how you actually become, that's how you sort of switch from being like, oh, this is my money to like, I trust that this money would come back somehow, right?
Yeah, and it's like, that's where a lot of unpacking has been for me. Because if you go into like, probably like yourself and everyone else out there, it's like when you go look into education, it's expensive. And you're like, I don't know if I'm going to spend this money, you know? But then it's like, you start thinking, if I'm going to spend $500 for potential getting this education that I'm going to make $20K. Like, it's like the potential for it outweighs the idea of spending on it. But a lot of us get into this space and we're like, I've only got $500 to my name, So then it's this like paradigm, And that's where the kind of tension starts. Is like, I do want to make a transition, but I don't have this. So for me, that's kind of where savings came into play, where it's like, okay, I can't reinvest now, but what I'm going to do is going to, you know, work at this job that I have, build up the resources to then save. So it's like, you know, I'm just going to have to take the that way for now. You know, when I got those resources, how do we put it in? And that's like for us, you know, like one thing when we started our business, I was working at, you know, a relatively good enough job that money was good, the work was good, so I could have stayed there and been comfortable with it and saved enough, and I got to do some amazing trips while doing that and just buy some amazing things. But what I did and talked to my partner about is that we need to build a bit of a runway here. So instead of just jumping straight out cold, which if people want to do that, we built a bit of money, so saved up money, so used the savings, and then jumped out to give us a bit of a runway to figure out this business stuff. And it's working, you know. We still have that thing there where we put money into an account that allows me and her to see that we've still got life. But now we've opened up more accounts to be able to pay for leisurable stuff, to do investment stuff. You know? So it's a growing system that I've been learning from, I guess, gurus and experts, and then applying it to myself.
So like in a way you saved up for like quarter life retirement.
I saved up to like pretty much, and then reinvesting that. But I mean, like, just tongue in cheek, but also it was like you knew that you had to, because we always talk about it. It was like 8 months, right? That was like your magic number. You always had to make sure that you were good for 8 months. So if things ever went south, then you had like that time to figure it out. Because I mean, 8 months is a lot of time. It's a lot of time.
And to be honest, people don't even think of 8 months. People think about like the next week.
Yeah, bro.
You know, like living week, paycheck to paycheck, and we hear that all the time. And I just think it's, and in practice, it's so much harder to do. But like, what's your opinions around like, is it actually a mindset thing, or is a lot of it to do with like the doing the due diligence, doing the sort of time sitting down and really unpacking where's the spending going, how do we, and in that same conversation, how do we make more money, how do we reinvest? And so like, I feel like a lot of it is to do with being conscious around all of that stuff. Because I mean, it's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to save all this money because I need 8 months. You know, it's like, to me, I'm just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it's so easy not to do. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Well, 100%. And I feel like this kind of comes back to the relationship with money stuff, and I guess even deeper, it's the inner work, man. Like I feel, because like you said, it's easier to say, oh yeah, we'll save 8 months, goal looks cool, we'll be able to do that. When you get behind or go to work or get behind your computer to start on your hustle, whatever that may be, it's a total different realm, and you have to have
Netflix, YouTube videos.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like, you know, you're
R&D.
distracted. You know, on social media, looking at other videos for, you know, research purposes. You know,
for research purposes. Yeah.
So it's hard. So for what we did is looked at what is our purpose, what is our vision, what is the values that we want to hold. Now, not to say that I was very good at holding to those, but at least gave us a foundation to work from. So that's the inner work, you know. And actually, for me, like, and I'll put this out there on record too, is that I guess I've been a spiritual person, but never really been someone that has believed in it because of my own beliefs around religion. So for me, it was like looking at purpose, looking at vision. I was like, that's the fluffy stuff, bro. I don't want to do that stuff. Just give me the cash and let's go. Like, but what I realized is that there was so much tension inside me that I needed to unpack myself. Like, why I am doing the things that are going to get me, but I don't feel like happy doing it. I don't feel content. I don't feel like this is meaningful what I'm doing. So for me, it was a question of like, what is out there? What are people saying that helps them find that? And what I found is people talking about the why, talking about the purpose, and that kind of, you know, talking to other people and seeing other content on that made me go, okay, let's just do this thing, let's just do this thing they talk about. And then it was like, oh wow, actually it is the thing, you know. Epiphany. One of the, I guess, tangible things that would be cool to see, if we speak Māori and Pacific, and these things are happening, you know, and people of colour as well, is that, are we buying our own stuff? That's a straight question, you know. Like for us, for me, I can't talk for everyone, but for me, I didn't want to buy stuff because I thought it was the cheap things that I don't want to buy, you know. I wanted to buy the luxury stuff that I see on TV and things that are cool. Now I'm starting to step back and go, oh, they did a print on T-shirt. They did a print on T-shirt. What am I buying it for?
Yeah,
What is it that I'm buying it for? Now, this is different for everyone. This just is my perception. It's like, actually, why can't I buy the bros that doing his own clothing label? Because some other big companies are just doing the exact same thing, but I got a self-hatred because they're not the big brand that I see on TV. So I feel like, again, inner work stuff that needs to happen is that, are we buying our people's stuff? What will that do? Just buying and trading together. And not to say that we just got to keep an economy for us. And like, when we start doing that, others may see, man, there's something here for them to buy as well. You know, the other people around the world will want to buy into that. So that for me is like a tangible question. Are we buying our own stuff?
True.
And I get the whole idea of quality and all of that. But again, market will decide, you know, like, and not to say that purely for me, I'm going to be honest in what I do. I'm not going to purely buy you because you're brown. Like, you have to speak to me still, you know, like I'm more probably biased to buy it from you. But if it's something that is whack and I don't like, I'm not going to buy it. Like, it's still going to be an honest conversation with it, but at least I've got a presence of mind to go look at what have my people got to then think, okay, maybe I will buy here, you know. So I think that, and that's inner work stuff, you know, that's inner self-hatred, tall poppy syndrome, all kind of in one. But if we even started that, but
it's definitely not an overwhelming thing inside of you. I think a lot of it is to do with just the range of stuff that we can choose from isn't that much. You know, like when we go into Back and Save, that's where like a lot of our shopping money goes to. Where do you see Pacific brands?
Exactly.
Not many places. And obviously if you're going to have like a Pacific soap, of course I'm going to go straight to it and have a look at it. But if that one soap costs $5 and, you know, the other soap costs like $5 for 5, you're always going to navigate to, you know, you might get it once just to support them. But yeah, like you said, the market decides as well.
And I think too, one thing I want to put forward on there is that I think some of the stuff that I've been learning is that there's one thing that I always used to look at is the price of something and kind of see that because it costs more, does it actually equate to more that I'm getting from it, you know? And I think there's, I was going to say there's 3 things, but I don't even know what 3 things are. But there's the, obviously the price. And we know that is the money, you know, how much does it cost? So when I look at stuff, I look at the price. The second thing is looking at what they call the cost, which is really the opportunity cost. Like, if I was to buy this, what is, like, you know, if I'm buying more stuff from people of the Pacific, the opportunity cost is that I'm buying, you know, stuff to support people that I know. And then there's the third one, which is value. And actually, what value does this thing that I'm buying actually give to me? You know, whether it's a soap, is the soap actually more... you know, better than other soaps, legit? Like, you know, is it more creamier? Is it something that actually is going to help my body? So I think what I was educated on was only looking at that price and not factoring everything else. Now that when I buy stuff, I look at those 3 lenses and look at it like, okay, if this may be more expensive, but the opportunity or the cost here is that I'm going to be supporting, you know, something that part of my values, I want to support my own people. Why not? You know, so then it kind of helps people unpack and actually make conscious decisions around what they're trying to buy instead of solely basing it on one thing. You know, and I think those are the conversations we need to have. You know, and some people are like, oh, but I don't want to think about all those 3 things when I'm going into it. But it's like these are the inner work stuff. So like it took me even a while. Like I was just looking at stuff like, yo, makes the right sense of price. Yo, shoes done. But actually, if we can do, I think what you're trying to ask around, you know, what can we do as people to kind of shift is actually having those conditions to have in a conversation like this. Talk about, you know, what can we do to support each other, and I think it's a little bit of learning how do we look at things. And
it's I feel like supporting is like such an understatement of like where I really want us to be, which is like how do we just crack it, man? Like get to the top. I think it's beyond buying Pacific brands. It comes down to just like figuring out like, you know, the structures around it. How do you actually what do you call it? How do we actually create like bases so that like the next generations are able to come in and just like fuck it up really, And
I think you know, as much as I am a geek when it comes to money and, learning about, my... actually, I should give context. Like, I'm a geek about money because I've learned that there's, I guess, what they call the money IQ stuff. So there's the technical stuff around money, how do we save it, what are systems, what is things that we can do around money, and then there's money EQ, which is our relationship with money. What is our relationship with money, how do we see it, how do we perceive it. I feel like, from my perception, I don't know, maybe I just don't have enough, I'm not subscribed to enough channels or don't look at enough stuff, but I feel like in our community we don't have the money EQ conversation, because it feels like it's taking us off the path. Where actually for me, it's made me thrive, because now I understand that, like, look at us, when we first started our business, we were charging like the lowest dollar ever, because we were like, I don't know if people want to buy our services. We really thought that our services were worth that much. When we figured out that all these other people pay this certain amount and they were doing content that was very much similar to us, it kind of questioned us, like, why aren't we putting our services in that light? And it's in a conversation of actually we haven't unpacked why aren't we doing that. It's because stories of like, our things are lower quality to them, but I'm looking at stuff like, hey, we're doing the exact same things, or if not better. Why are we charging that? So that's the money EQ stuff, because we have things that we have to unpack for ourselves. So
growing up with money, obviously, people, well, when I say people, I mean the boys. Used to be like, what clothes do you have? And for me, as I started to unpack that, it was like, man, why was it always about like the sort of brands that we wore? And then it was like, okay, obviously the best outfits were the most expensive. And then you started to unpack that, and it was like, it actually cost money. This is me actually being an adult and actually thinking about all this stuff. And it actually all came down to this image of you being rich, right? That's literally where it came down to. But we went to like decile 1 schools trying to like impress each other, you know what I mean? And it just didn't make sense to me. But at the same time, like, we're men now, and we see like, all other men that are the same age as us still flexing on like cars and stuff. And it just makes me sort of wonder whether that, or how do I say it, that kid-like mindset of like trying to impress other people has translated into our adulthood now, and how that can be, I guess, detrimental to, coming back to our conversation around our values and purposes. Now it's not even about what we value or what we personally feel like is our purpose. It's now about like all this at the superficial level now. It's just about like impressing people.
100%. And yeah, man, like very much that was my journey as a kid, like trying to buy the latest gears, or to be honest, our gears was buy the Nikes, buy the Adidas, and stunt in front of our friends, and especially to girls, let's be honest.
Yeah, bro, 100%.
Look scucks for the girls.
I'd say that.
And I feel like I had a real interesting journey with that. I've told you before that for my journey, obviously I went to primary out here, so I went to Poynting Primary, so in the heart of Poynting, the heart of east side, and all of us were in positions, or our family were in positions that didn't really, I guess, earn too much. Well, that's what I thought at the time anyway, that we had families that didn't earn too much. And then I went to Remure Intermediate. Now, for anyone that doesn't know the, I guess, contrast when it comes to, I guess, the amount of money that family or households have, it was a big difference.
Well, I mean, the name can explain it for itself, from Port England to Remuera.
So, like, going to that thing, like, for our mufti days, bro, like, majority, like 80% of my gears were warehouse gears, and then I have the old Nike stuff, I was like, yo. But when I went to Remuera, bro, we're mufti day. Got kids rocking Louis Vuitton, Coach, Oroton, stuff that I've never seen before. But everyone's like, bro, that's $1,000, that's $500. And I'm like, what the heck? What kids have these stuff? Damn. So I was embarrassed to go to mufti day. I was like, bro, I don't want to go here. Like, if I show my warehouse ones, then rock these things in front of them, they're gonna think I'm
slashing to you.
It's honest, legit. Like, I have like this real funny story when I went to school one time to PE class, and like at that time, like number one shoe warehouse just came in, and they had these shoes, but they had like 4 stripes. I can't remember the brand.
Yo, nah, I remember
But I was
that.
rocking those brands.
Yeah.
And then I rocked them to school, and then they were like, "Oh, gee, you got Skechers," and I was like, and I was like, they were like, "Where's the brand name?" And I was like, "Oh shit!" And they're like, "Gee, I got clowned in front of my whole class." And I was clowned, legit, bro. They were like, "Gee, you're rocking like fake ass shoes." And I got clowned in front of my class, bro. And I remember that day. I went home. And
Closed the door.
took my shoes off and chucked them on the side, and then like the next day, like we're PE, my parents are like, "Why don't you take them?" Like, "Oh, no, it's all good, we don't have PE." Like trying to play it up and stuff. But like built inside me, like legit, that's kind of where my savings journey started.
Yo,
built inside me
wow.
a story where I'm like, okay, my parents, like they gave me lunch money now and then. I'm gonna save $1 or $2. So I legit save $1 or $2 here and there, and because obviously Mufti wasn't every time, it was like either every term or every second term. So I was like, yeah, cool, I gotta go to get to that Mufti day and have at least one cool item to show people that, you know, I'm all good, like I'm with everyone. So I built all this money, and then if I did little jobs here on the weekend or work with my dad or whatnot, I would save that money. So I built enough money, which was like, I think at the time like $200.
Yeah.
And I went and bought like some, I think it was like Air Force Ones.
Yeah.
I'm a part of the crew now.
Yeah.
Got there, like all that resentment that came from getting clowned and arriving at a school when they freaking have everything. I was like, yo, I want to be part of the crew. Rock my Air Force Ones. I remember this. I rocked my Air Force Ones, and like everyone was like, you know, like, oh, I got this, and I rocked it. And I didn't say anything because I was like, wow, only thing I got is shoes. I'm not gonna try and act like I'm with everyone. And then people looked at my shoes and went, oh, those are me, and that was it. Yeah, and I was like, what the heck? I like built this whole thing of like trying to be a part of the crew.
Yeah. Just for 1 second.
Just for 1 second. And I was like, fuck, is that it? Is that why I did all this thing and like had this like real bad energy to kind of get this happen and had that chip on the shoulder?
Yeah. Did you have that realization at that moment in time?
No, that's the funny part. So at that time, I realized, I was like, oh, okay. But I had this realization, I was like.
Yeah, but you're a boy. You're still trying to chase it.
I was still chasing.
Yeah,
like, and
of
I was
course.
still chasing, and I feel like I had I understood. Okay, this is not everything. I shouldn't be doing this. I had this like, oh, I didn't feel as what I feel. Oh, good, I'll keep doing it. Like, you know, it's just
no,
like
100%. I feel like I do feel like it was like, because you said that actually leading up to buying the shoes is where the high comes in, right? And if we like, you know, talk about drugs, it's always like
the anticipation,
and then you're just always trying to find that high again. That's so interesting.
Exactly that, bro. So I was like, I still did what I did and saved more money and then bought stuff. And what I was quite fortunate too. Like I had some really good friends at the time where they were the boys. Like I'll go to their house, bro, and they had mansions, bro. And I was like, I've never been in one of these, bro. But then the boys would give me their clothes.
Yo,
you know? So it was like, kind of, you know, respectfully, what happened for me was like, oh, you know, like actually being good friends. Yeah. I was fortunate to then receive things that then put me on like that. Not to say that solved everything. It just kind of made me realize like, oh, like, wow, actually the friendship is the cool part. You know, the fact that they didn't do it out of like, oh, you got nothing, I want to give you something. It just felt like they felt we had a little bit of a vibe here, so they felt like they could trust me to wear stuff and do stuff. So that was what I wanted. I didn't want you got mean clothes. I just wanted to know that I had good friends and could speak and do stuff together.
So do you think it went from, the energy shifted from saving up for the money to like now creating relationships?
Pretty much. I think there was, I would have to say, be honest, that I was still having, I guess, not an identity crisis, but was still trying to come to grips with myself. So intermediate pass, went into high school and just like broader vision, you know, and now we're talking about alcohol, we're talking about all these other things that kind of come into the equation. So I think I was still very much chasing, but I think I was definitely, because I'm an only child, I should have probably put that out there too. I definitely know I had this really sense of like, I had cousins and all that and whatnot, but I was really looking for someone to like be with, you know, and hang out with. True. So I feel like I had a real big, more came into the equation, let's just say that, and it went through other stuff. But I guess when it really got to after high school, especially going to uni years, that's when I started questioning like, fuck, like, you know, all this trying to chase stuff. Well, I mean, it's not doing anything for me.
Well, I mean, like, you know, I want to go back to the girls thing. Like, how much of attaining all the gears was to do with actually getting all the girls.
Because, putting it out there, like at that time when I got clown, the girls that, I was, I guess, looking to, they were around. And like in my head grew this like, oh, they're laughing, they see it.
Yeah, true.
So I was definitely trying to, probably wouldn't admit it back then, but it was definitely like, something trying to show everyone, girls, the bros, that like, I'm cool.
Yeah, true.
I can be with this. And yeah, I think a lot of high school years was the same thing. It's like, how do we have money so then we can go out on a date, or how do we have resources to do stuff with people? And then, but it comes with this almost attachment that if I don't have the money, I can't do the things that I want to do. But then coming back to that whole friend stuff, it's like a lot of the stuff didn't even need money. Actually, it just needed, ability to be able to have conversations, and ability to be able to connect with people was what really I needed to learn, or I felt I needed to learn at that time. But yeah, so it wasn't really like, not to say you don't need money. Money makes things enjoyable and you can do better stuff. But a lot of my greatest memories were things without money with my friends, Yeah, it's
true.
like, so you're dealing with like this idea of like, I need this and need to go that way, and then you're dealing with like, actually it doesn't make sense. And it didn't fully make sense until I got to my 20s that, okay, this is starting to make sense.
Well, do you think if that didn't happen, you would be a different person now? Or do you think you would have eventually sort of came to like where you are now just for a different angle? What do you think?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question. Like I've pondered that. Like if I didn't go that way, would I have?
Because I do feel like the chip on that shoulder was a like a true force behind like a lot of like from where you came from to where you are now. I'm just thinking, if you didn't have that chip on the shoulder, let's say, for example, you didn't, like at a young age, you didn't even give a fuck about what your friends thought or what girls thought about what you wore, had you
done some of the stuff that I did.
Yeah.
Bro, no, like...
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of life, right? That's why we go to where we are, because of all these different things that happens to us, eh?
And I feel like at the time, like, when I'm really looking back, it was like, shucks, man, like, this sucks, like, like this whole feeling and being a part of it, I definitely had some good times in there, but I definitely had a lot of internal struggles that I went through and trying to like figure out myself and figure out what is going on. But I'm now at a point where I look back and like, oh fuck, it was so good. Like, I feel like, those moments and those things, whether at the time they were the best moments, I feel like they've helped me realize like stuff now. Like it helped me like now seeing like my friends with all the Louis Vuitton Coach stuff and all that stuff. It didn't make me go, oh, that stuff's materialistic, I'm not going to go there. And now made me go, why 100%. Am I getting it? It's like I can still buy the stuff, outside of the community, outside of New Zealand, outside in the world. But why am I buying it? Like that's what I learned from the whole thing. And we have designed an account for me and my partner to be able to pick from and buy whatever we want for that fact, because it's not a bad thing. The bad thing was like chasing and really trying to, do it because of how people are going to feel about me. The idea of buying it, like actually flexing because you want to flex and not dim your shine, like I think of Adesanya when he says that, hearts, like do your thing. But if you're trying to do it because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, or you're trying to, flex because you want people to be impressed by you, do your thing. But I just know from my own journey, it didn't serve me. So that's kind of where I've come to. So I still buy stuff. Like I bought the shirt, Crenshaw shirt, because I believed in this is obviously Nipsey Hussle and what he's about, and I believed in their vision. So I'm buying towards that, and I still want to buy people's things that I believe in. But I think that's where the conscious conversations come in, and I feel like when I wear this, I kind of, not to say I don't wear my warehouse ones with pride, but I definitely feel like, I feel good. Like, I know why I'm wearing this. I know what we're trying to do, or know what they're trying to do. I know what I'm about. It just feels a whole lot better instead of chasing that satisfaction.
Well, I mean, because like I would also say that it's not like you've reached it, but like you've had a taste of it, and you're kind of like, this isn't really like what I felt like it was supposed to feel like, and also because like now you have the capacity to actually buy shit to actually flex, it's like, oh, why am I doing it? You know, it's like a mixture between being an adult, but also having that freedom at the tip of your fingertips and being like, oh, fuck, nah, there's actually more. So it's like another mountain that you're chasing, which is like, you know, finding yourself in the clouds, which is like the valleys and stuff.
And I think, you know, like, you know, we talk about it, and Nico always brings it up in our team meetings, but it's this ode to younger self. So like having gone through that now and being in a position where, like, I'm not going to say I'm woke and you know, feel the type of way that everyone should feel, but I feel in myself like every day, like I feel happy, which I didn't really feel when I was a young person. I felt like there's grind, I gotta impress people, I gotta do stuff. So I feel happy. So it's like now I feel like in that position to kind of not say, hey, young kid, do what you want to do this, but it's like, hey, like from my experience, you know, there are things that now serve me, but it's not as easy. You know, we know that, like, we can tell this is the path for you to be happy. But the truth is, everyone's dealing with their own journeys and going through their own things. You know, so I think it's just, for me, it's providing that exposure to that stuff. Whether that's role modeling it, whether that's talking about it. Someday, some person may pick it up, and that's how I got it. Is because people from my tiny window, tiny door, were talking about some stuff. And I was like, oh, what is that, you know? And then I leant into it and did the thing. So, I think that's, I guess, the space I'm in now, is really being able to, and I want to keep doing this. It's like, speak more openly and
sort of more exploring.
More exploring. I feel I've still got, I know I've still got a lot more to learn, and I'm like keen as for it. You know? That's the cool part. I feel like I'm in this real, as much as I feel like I've learned and heaps, I feel like I'm also at this place where, like, I'm still learning, which I love, you know?
I mean, that's the beauty of, like, even getting into things that you really love to learn, which is, like, once you learn a little bit of it and then you learn a little bit more about something else, you're like, fuck, there's so much more to learn about this, but I love it because this is, like, the thing. This is, like, I feel like I'm in my zone. And I'm exactly like that with a lot of other stuff.
And that's where I feel like now, very understanding of is, obviously now we do business and we have been learning in that space, is that my kind of journey has been, well, especially when I was young, I was like, how am I going to get the money? And I even made a goal, like, when I was like, especially when I got out of school, I was like, by the time I'm 30, I want to be a millionaire. Like, that was my thing. Like, everyone knew I was like, I'm going to be a millionaire when I'm 30. Everyone's laughing at me like, how are you going to do that? And it just kind of stuck with me. And now, when I look back at that goal, even in itself, I've learned about money. Money's not the be all end all. It's like it's the means to an end. It's not actually the end thing. And it's not to say that I'm not going to try and make $1 million by 30. We're still on track for that.
Solid.
We still got that there, but actually, it's not the thing that I'm actually trying to chase. I've actually found it, which is, how do I create a lifestyle for me to be happy? And that comes from building assets or building businesses, getting property investment, whatever that may be for people to be able to have that lifestyle. So that's kind of where I'm kind of at, and trying to see how I can put that out there.
It's the journey, right? It's the pursuit, which is the most important thing. It's not really like the goal, because, like, man, we know what it feels like to finally get those Air Force Ones. I mean, like, cool shoes, bro.
You get scuffed and you're like, bruh, I just spent $200. Like,
yeah.
And I've got the scuff mark that I have to now rub off.
100%. And that's like, what is it all for?
100%.
What is it all for? Solid. There's a good ending. What is it all for? Hey.
I was going to add one more thing. Okay, here's the ending.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, do you have any, like, last thoughts?
Well, I 100% feel like my, I guess, journey and what it's saying to me currently is, like, how can we have the conversation about money, IQ, the technical stuff, as well as having the conversation with money, EQ. But what I've come to learn through this business stuff, and this is what I was trying to get to my last point that I forgot about, is there's a person named Garrett Gunderson that came up with this thing. Maybe he got it from someone else, but he's got a quote that says, money follows value creation. So now we're at this point, obviously doing business, that I don't really focus on money like that. I got a bit of a relationship with it. I've got systems now that I constantly, like, evolve, and I still geek out on it. But it's actually, if we want money, how are we creating value? How are we delivering value? That's where our eyes should really be. My eyes when I was a kid was, how do I make money? I wasn't even focusing on how do I build relationships, how do I build things that are going to really help people. It was like, if I'm going to make money, I feel like I'm chasing my tail. Like I feel like this is endless scroll.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at this. It's fun because like, oh yeah, cool, gotta get money. And I'm gonna do money to go do the trips or do other things I want to do with my family, do some more reinvesting. But it's like, this is the fun. Like it's obsessed with ideas and obsessed with things that I'm really interested in and try and help people, you know, with it.
But when you do that, the money falls
Money
in.
comes in.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the levers. Like how do we
Shift
get
our
out?
mindset.
Yeah, shift to creating value.
Creating value.
Mm-hmm.
How do we shift creating value? That money will follow away, and like that's 100% true. Like that energy will follow.
Mm-hmm. Not today, not tomorrow, not next week. But as you understand, and that's what I've kind of learned through, and probably yourself, is that you start to understand the nuances of this game. You know, and you start to learn that actually how people make their money is because they understand how it's all working.
Yeah.
You know, so then you keep doing more of that, and then we're at a position, you know, from our business, we were like making jack from the start, and we're still in a position where we're still trying to, you know, get it up. But like we've almost like quadrupled what we started from when we our first year, you know, and it's like because we're starting to learn the nuances of actually.
Yeah, but from what though? From nothing.
From nothing, exactly.
Zero.
We bootstrapped our way to here. Oh well, you know, I had savings to get me to be here, but you guys were in uni, you guys were trying to like make it happen, and we had no cameras, and we just like put it in.
We didn't even have a job like you did. Like I feel like you're the most privileged out of all of us, and it's not even privileged. It was just like you left the job. Like that's pretty low. But for us, we were like low as. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think 100%. I think we're a testament to our own, I guess, words around, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
We didn't have to start with money. It was just unpacking ourselves and then realizing the value that we had, and then how do we go out there and create value.
All right, so that's episode 5 of Money with Tyrone. Thanks for watching this episode. Hope you guys subscribe. See you. Later, dude. Sup, bro?
Yeah.
And stop.